Um, yeah, so I would like to share this quote from Great Controversy 88, and then it's a pre-phrase, so I think F.4. Uh, okay, so here Ellen White, she writes that the great controversy between good and evil will increase in intensity to the very close of time. In all ages, the wrath of Satan has been manifested against the church of Christ, and God has bestowed his grace and spirit upon his people to strengthen them to stand against the power of the evil one. When the apostle Christ were to bear his gospel to the world and to record it for all future ages, they were especially endowed with the enlightenment of the Spirit. But as the church approaches her final deliverance, Satan is to work with greater power. He comes down having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Revelation 12, verse 12. He will work with all power and signs and lying wonders. Second Thessalonians 2, verse 9. For 6,000 years, that master, for 6,000 years, that master mind that once was highest among the angels of God has been wholly bent to the work of deception and ruin. And all the depths of satanic skills sub uh, subtle, okay, I don't know how to pronounce that, acquired all the cruelty developed during these struggles of the ages will be brought to bear against God's people in the final conflict. And in this time of peril, the followers of Christ are to bear to the world the warning, the Lord's second advent, and a people who to be prepared to stand before him at his coming without spot and blameless. Second Peter 3, verse 14. At this time, the special endowment of divine grace and power is not less needful to the church than in the apostolic days. Okay. Um, yeah, while reading this, I would also want to share um, what I would like to present today. So, okay, please give me a second. But I would like us to keep in mind of what I've shared today and what uh, has transpired, has become of the world in which we live in today. Okay, yes. Okay, I found the document. Okay, so yeah, uh, this is what I would like to present to you today from Gamergate to Manosphere. So in 1989, the introduction of the World Wide Web indicates to us the type of war we are living in. And we know that in 1989, it was the invention of the World Wide Web. And the World Wide Web indicates to us that the war which we face today will take in online. It's going to be an online war. or an information war, if you'd like to put it that way. And then in 2014, Gamergate, ne? 2022, Elder Tez presents on Gamergate and what led to January 6th. Gamergate was a loosely organized misogynistic online harassment campaign motivated by right-wing backlash against feminism, diversity, and progressivism in video game culture. We know that around 2021, Elder started presenting about Gamergate, and Gamergate becomes a significant topic, especially when coming to understand the Sunday law. And it tells us of what, uh, how can I put it, what we're gonna face on the Sunday law, which we live in, which is 2024. And then 2024 Manosphere, even though this term has been with us from 1970s and 80s, it has gained its popularity again in 2024. Presentation done by Elder Terry regarding the Sunday law has included the subject on manosphere around media. Manosphere is varied collection of website, blogs, and online forums promoting masculinity, misogyny, and opposition to feminism. So, with that in mind, we're going to read an article or an opinion on what more on what manosphere is and how it's impacting, especially young men, but men in general, and also the impact it has also on women. So I'd like to share another article here. Just a second. Please bear with me. Okay. All right, so this article is from the Daily Maverick. So the title is Popping the Red Pill, How Toxic Masculinity is Reshaping Young Men's Identity Online. And then it shows a picture of Andrew Tate and his brother there, who's Tristan Tate talked to media outside their residence on 23 March in Bucharest, Romania. Andrew and his brother have been charged with rape, having sex with a minor, human trafficking, and money laundering charges, which they deny. Okay, this article is by Kavisha Pillay. Okay. So then it reads, this isn't some niche internet subculture. It's disturbingly mainstream, alarming, widespread, and quietly reshaping how millions perceive masculinity. Over the past few days, fresh from watching Netflix Adolescents, I plunged into murky social media rabbit holes that the algorithm had mercifully kept hidden from me until now. I'd previously heard terms like manosphere. Okay, let me continue reading this. Naively imagining them as obscure digital hideouts where disaffected men gather to swap uh, grievances and conspiracy theories. So I'd like to go to manospheres, ne? So I'll go into this manospheres and try to understand what it is actually. The Manospheres, as I've mentioned, is a varied collection of website blogs and online forums promoting masculinity, misogyny, and opposition to feminism. Communities within the Manospheres include the men's rights activists, incels, involuntary celibates, men going their own way, MGTOW, pickup artists, and fathers' rights groups. While the specifics of each group's beliefs sometimes conflict, they are generally united in the belief that society is biased against men due to the influence of feminism. That feminist promotes misandry, hatred for men. Acceptance of the ideas is described as taking the red pill, a metaphor borrowed from the film The Matrix. So basically, the red pill is like you choose between, if you know the movie The Matrix, if you choose between the red or the blue pill, then when you take the blue pill, you continue with your life ignorant and happy. And then when you take the red pill, you it's like you go on into obvious this matrix of uh, information and conspiracies and a whole lot of what this manosphere they call it is like enlightenment. When you're taking this red pill, it's like they become enlightened of what their world truly is and how the society is promoting women more than men, and yeah, and so on. And then the manosphere overlaps with the far right and alt-right communities. It has also been associated with online harassment and has been implicated in radicalizing men into misogynist beliefs and the glorification of violence against women. Some sources have associated manosphere based radicalization with mass shooting motivated by misogyny. The manosphere received significant media coverage following the 2014 Isla Vista killings in California, the 2015 Umpqua Community College shooting in Oregon, and the 2018 Toronto van attacks, as well as the online harassment campaign against women in video game industry known as Gamergate. Okay, we're gonna go back to the article that I was reading. Just wanted to give you a deep understanding what the manosphere is about. Okay, but after hours of scrolling through what's known as the red pill content, it quickly became clear that this isn't some niche internet subculture. It's disturbing mainstream, alarming widespread, and quietly reshaping how millions perceive masculinity. The Red Pill movement, for the uninitiated, draws its name from the 1990 2009 blockbuster film The Matrix, where swallowing the red pill reveals harsh hidden truth about reality. In this case, the truth plebble is worldview that casts men as victims, stripped from their natural dominance by feminism, political correctness, and the supposed conspiracy of cultural decay, as I've mentioned. What starts as a cultural or legitimate grievance, say the lack of attention to men's mental health or the pressures of traditional breadwinning, quickly metastasis into a fever dream of misogyny, entitlement, and the retrogressive ideals. It's a narrative that's less about empowerment and more about resentment, cloaked in the language of self improvement. Take Andrew Tate, who is the poster child of this ideology. A former kickboxer turned into a self styled guru, Tate rise to a prominence is a masterclass in algorithmic seduction. His videos, which are short, punchy, and dripping into uh, meshy, machismo, showcased him bare-chested, working out, displaying his luxury cars, cigars, and a rotating cast of scantily clad women, all props in his performance of alpha masculinity. His to young men is simple: reject sympathy, build wealth, and dominates others. Because, okay, dominates others. Because that's what real men do. Never mind that his own life, a tangle of legal troubles, including allegation of human trafficking, sexual assault, suggests less a triumph of manhood and more cautionary tale of hubris. To his millions of social media followers, mostly disaffected young men, Tate isn't a flawed human, but a middle finger to a world they feel has left them behind. Manipulative. Tate content isn't dangerous simply because it's outrageous. It's dangerous because it's manipulative. Between flashy displays of wealth and overtly toxic rhetoric, Tate communicates about fitness, faith, responsibility, and the value of overcoming hardship. He champions the idea that real men are forged through struggle and adversity, which builds character and strength. To a young man who has faced genuine hardships such as loss, poverty, bullying, or loneliness, this message can be compelling, validating, and even empowering. But this is the bait, a psychological operation of sorts, pulling vulnerable boys and men deeper into a distorted worldview by mixing genuine encouragement with subtle poison. Influences like Tate weaponize the struggles of youth and men, transforming hardship into radicalization. Then there's Jordan Peterson, a Canadian psychologist whose intellectual style gives the red pill community a sense of credibility. Peterson often speaks with seriousness of a concerned father, warning that society is losing its way because traditional gender roles are disappearing. He mixes complicated topics like psychology and religious stories to create simple message: men should be strong, disciplined, and in control. Peterson popularity gives the Red Pill movement a polished academic image that makes it harder to dismiss. Meanwhile, men's rights activists push these ideas to disturbing extremes. On their website and YouTube channels, they obsessively discuss topics like divorce laws, custody issues, and domestic violence, claiming men are the real victims of society. For men's rights activists, masculinity isn't about dignity or strength. It's about keeping a bitter scorecard of complaints against women. That allure, though it though is undeniable, social media amplifies these voices through outrage and virality, turning bad takes into gospel. Tate Bomset racks up views. Peterson displayed Ernest Sparks' endless debates, and the men's rights activists' fringe ideas find fatally ground in echo chambers. It's a feedback loop that reshaping how millions perceive manhood, not through quiet reflection, but through a megaphone of extremism. How young men are being radicalized. Young men ain't simply stumbling upon red pill content, they are being methodically guided towards it. A recent experiment by researchers at Dublin Central University highlights this troubling reality by creating artificial social media accounts mimicking teenage boys. They uncovered how quickly and aggressive the algorithm funnel young users into toxic echo chambers. Within mere minutes, sometimes just two, platforms like TikTok and YouTube Shorts served up relentless streams of manosphere content dominated by influencers promoting extreme, often hateful ideas of masculinity. After only a few hours of passive engagement, these accounts were bombarded with content rooted in anti rhetoric and toxic alpha male myths. The study also identified three core narrative frameworks consistently deployed with manosphere content, each designed to appeal to vulnerable young men. First, crisis narrative perpetuates fear and victimhood, claiming men and traditional masculinities are under existential threats, blaming feminism, alleged liberal brainwashing, and women-centric legal system. This narrative dangerously exaggerates false accusations of rape despite overwhelming evidence that sexual violence remains vastly underreported and under-prosecuted. They portray the traditional heteropatriarchal nuclear family as collapsing under supposedly threats from female promiscuity, divorce, LGBTQ rights, and what they ominously term the trans cult. Second, motivational scripts position masculinity as inherently tied to economic and emotional self-control, promoting myth that hard work inevitably yields success, a message that ignores systematic economic instability caused by neoliberal capitalism. Steo- Stoicism and emotional suppressions are praised, while while outdated, discredited evolutionary psychology to argue men are biologically driven to fight, protect, and provide, while women's roles are limited to reproduction, nurturing, and domestic domestic yeah, domesticity. Any empowerment of women, these influencers argue invincibly emasculates men and disrupts a supposedly natural order. These pseudo-scientific ideas reinforce harmful stereotypes such as contradictory claims that men seek marriage only with virgins while pursuing promiscuity themselves, that all women are inherently hypergamous and transactional in relationships, and that heterosexual interaction fundamentally revolve around dominance and submission. A local context. Unlike the disinformation of a supposed white genocide in South Africa, femicide is undeniably reality. Our society is already plagued by devastatingly high rates of gender-based violence, and the spread of manosphere ideologies only worsen this crisis. Recent horrific examples include a man who shared a video of himself on Facebook after murdering his partner, attempting to justify his actions by claiming she had mistreated him, and a forex trader who killed two young women simply because they refused to spend the night with him after he had bought them dinner. Adding insult to injuries, thousands flocked to a Chris Brown concert held during the 16-day activism for no violence against women and children campaign. Advocacy groups like Women for Change faced vitriolic attacks simply for highlighting the obscenity of giving a platform to a known repeat abuser. The spread of manosphere contact is particularly dangerous in South Africa and other countries that grapple with high levels of gender-based violence. These toxic online narratives reinforce existing harmful beliefs that women are objects to control and dominate. By tapping into men's frustrations and vulnerability, the manosphere promotes aggressive and violent attitude towards women. This isn't just an online issue. It fuels real-world violence. So where does this leave us? Dismissing it as a clown show risk underestimating its pull. Engaging it head-on often feeds the beast because every critic becomes proof of persecution. The real challenge is offering something better, a vision of masculinity that affirming yet adaptable, confident yet compassionate. It's not about siding ground to nostalgia or pandering to entitlement, but about addressing the root anxieties such as the economic, social, emotional issues that fuels this fire. This isn't just about a few loud mouths. It's about a generation of men at a crossroad and the ideas vying to define them. The red pill twisted masculinity may be irresistible to millions, but it's a dead end. The question is whether society can build something worth choosing instead before the algorithm decides for us. So yeah, this is the end of the article and the end of my presentation as well. I just wanted to highlight that the presentations which were done by Elder Tez on Gamergate, it showed us the misogyny around the gaming culture or the gaming industry and all the online violence and attacks that women face in the gaming industry. And then 10 years later, even though this word manosphere has been with us for the longest time during the 1970s and 80s, it has gained its popularity. You can just type on Google manosphere and check. A lot of articles actually came out around 2024. And this is very significant to highlight that or put some meat on 2024 being the Sunday law, because we know also that for Trump to win his presidency, he went to such influencers who promotes this manosphere or the red pill community to get his message across and gets votes in that sphere. And I just wanted to also, by reading this article, to understand the impact and violence it has on women, especially in South Africa, where we face high numbers of gender-based violence. So, yes, I end here. I don't know if there are any questions or comments on this. Yes, but that's where my presentation will end for today. Just wanted to share mainly this article and give an awareness of the manosphere which is happening all around us. Okay, if
Hi,
the
Tato.
all right, Deborah.
Hi, Tato. Sorry, I just joined now in the last few minutes of your presentation. I just wanted some clarity on the red versus blue pill and how it's applied to misogyny. If you've already explained that, I apologize, but I just needed that clarity. Thanks.
Oh, okay. So there is when you go onto the internet, there's this what they call the red pill community. So the red pill community is derived from the movie The Matrix. And then in that movie, if you know it, there was this man who had to choose between a blue pill and a red pill. And what this article and what Manosphere is about, it tells us that when you take in the blue pill, you take in the blue pill, then you live your life as normal. The way you knew your life, you continue like that, and you just become ignorant of what the world is. But then when you take in the red pill, you become enlightened. This is what these manosphere believe. You become enlightened of what the world is truly is. So to them, what the world is truly is that they are the victim in the whole picture. They see feminism being promoted more than men's rights and that, and they are the victim in the whole pictures, and they are the ones who are being abused and all of that, and all these pressures. It's actually that all these pressures that women faces, it's actually not women but them who are facing all these pressures, and they're victims of gender-based violence and many more conspiracy theories that they believe. So a red pill is just conspiracy theories on what these men believe about men's rights. That's basically it.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? If there are no any other questions, we can close with the word of prayer.
Hi, Tato.
Tato. Oh.
Okay, no, it's okay because I've just joined. Let the speaker just came before me be first. I can.
Okay, I see Theo. Okay, Tina, you can go then. Theo, you can come after.
Yeah, I was just going to say that with the whole movement, it's scary that most people, majority of the people here in South Africa actually believe in it. Even the women in that whole movement, not just men, they also women supporting that whole idea that men are being treated unequally. Now we're focusing on women and men are not being taken into account. It's all about women this, women that, and people forget about men. So that whole thinking, you can actually see it happening here in South Africa with the whole thinking, yeah. You mentioned the thing, yeah, Chris Brown coming here to South Africa to perform and all that. There was a petition, and there was also people who were saying that, oh, but you shouldn't judge a person because like they made one mistake. Most people were saying that who in support of that were women. It's also sad to see that. But like it's a huge movement here in South Africa. I know that for a fact. I know because we interact with those kind of people every single day. You get to a person who talks about um how South Africa and the constitution is so unfair because women are given more attention, and it's all about women and women and women this, women that. So that movement is really growing and expanding. And it's not just women support, it's not just men supporting it. That's what I wanted to highlight. Just like feminism is not about, it's not just women supporting it, it's also men support it. The same thing as women's fear, just two things that are crunch. Yeah, that are just, I forgot the word, but things that's like are opposite to each other, those two things. You see here on this part where they're just saying that it's always about women, it's always about women, but what about the men? And they tend to forget and also want to imply equity. They tend to forget applying equity and dealing with all that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. You can go, Theo.
Oh, hi, Tato. It's Foodie this side. I'm just using the phone that has been named by another name. Now, my comment is my apologies that I joined in the last session of the presentation. Excuse me, but to me, the silence is just being, I'm kind of, there's so much to carry on our shoulders as feminists, to think that being a feminist on its own, it's quite a challengeable situation. Now having this manosphere thing and people, you can really see that this is a last day. What can I say? It's one of the last day events. The battle is, the really war has been declared by men, because for them to come first, or like they want to overpower all the idea of women being oppressed. Now they want to draw the world's attention, and they have a strong baseline, kind of in quotation marks, because patriarchy is just taught, has influenced the system to put men in the so-called pedestal, that they are the people. Now, for feminism to come, they really declare it as a war, as a hatred towards them. So, you can see their baseline is the strongest, because already with the patriarchal mindset, that even us as women had to make them the people, it's not going to be an easy battle to turn against our words, to say the way we're doing things was wrong, and also with them standing up for their rights. So it's really a spiritual warfare. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Pretty. Yeah, indeed. It hence when I began with the presentation, I quoted Great Controversy, where it's speaking about how the war will intensify during our time, and you see this happening actually all over. It's over. It's really overwhelming, and like, to be honest, it's sometimes just being a feminist by just by name. It's not even enough, because you don't even need to go far. You just have to look at the person next to you, either as your family or you're working with. Uh, you can see that the misogyny is deep in there. And there's something interesting that I noticed when reading this article. Ne? I'll share the article for those who will be interested to, even you want to read it again. They mention three groups of people, or three, I could say, persons there. They mention Andrew Tate as like being the face, uh, as being like the face of this whole movement. And then they mention Peterson. Peterson is like the one who comes with scientific, historical, all these educational things that justifies that men are supposed to be rulers. Who like Peterson promotes patriarchal in an educational platform or educational way. And then there's the men's rights activism, or the men's rights movement, which they promote this in all spheres of life, whether it's at home, whether it's at church or work or anywhere. They just a movement that does this work. So it was interesting to note that this is some sort of like a religion, if you can look at it in that way. And the reason I quoted Great Controversy, uh, I believe that this movement is the one that was raised up to highlight and point out that these are the works of Satan. These are the works of, the, yes, if I can put it like that. So thank you so much for the comments.
Hi, Tato. Hi.
Sorry, yes, Deborah. I was muted there. I didn't see. Hello, Deborah. You may go.
Hello.
Yes, yeah, you may.
Yes,
You may
I
share
didn't
your thoughts.
get the quotation. Where did you read it?
It's Great Controversy. I think 88. Let me just share on the.
Yeah,
I'll
can
share
you
the.
share it on the group?
Yes, I'll
Thank
share the
you.
group. It's Great Controversy 88 F.4. Great Controversy 88 F.4. It's a forwarded. It's a pre-phrase. Yeah. Final Generation Roads explained what a blue pill and a red pill represents. And yeah, it's really like a flood. Are there any other comments? Okay, if there are no any other comments and questions, would like to close in prayer. Thank you. Dear God, thank you once again for the love you keep on showing us. Thank you for the information which you give us as a movement to study and learn about such things that are happening in the world, the manosphere, trying to understand it the way we understood the Gamergate, and what Elder Tez has taught us about Gamergate, and what now Elder Terry is teaching us about the impact of manosphere and the Sunday law. I ask now, as we are about to close, that you may continue to guide us, protect us, be with us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Thank you. I'm handing